Our guy Vinay chiming in once again. Thank you so much, Vinay, for the super chat contribution. Steve touched upon this earlier, but since we do have the super chat, Steve will tee you up on Ryan Day mentioning the possibility of an open practice available to the media before the spring game. What do you expect there?
Oh, I think he was just kind of speaking off the cuff and he basically said if it's possible or doable that they'd like to invite people to come. The issue is, and I was listening to some podcasts today, we're not out of the woods yet. They're not going to do a super spreader event. They're not going to have open gates at the Ohio Stadium for 20, 40, 80,000 people to walk in. I think when our society gets closer to 80, 90% vaccination or whatever our maximum vaccination percentage is going to be, and then it's safe to have big crowds at football games and these kind of things, that's when you'll see something. I think he was just speaking off the cuff. People have taken that the wrong way. He didn't mean they're having an open practice. I can't imagine they're going to have an open spring game with tickets. It's going to be, if there's anybody at that game, it's what Gene Smith said. First responders, frontline people who've dealt with COVID, probably who've been vaccinated. So it's a safe environment. They're just simply not doing that. And, we were at the Big Ten tournament this past weekend. They had 8,000 people in an area that would probably seat about 30, 35,000 people. It was 25% capacity. And to go beyond that, and that was an indoor venue, to go much beyond that at this point, I think you maybe do 30% outside now in Ohio. To go much beyond that, it's not the idea of an open practice and the gates are open and everybody come. That's simply not going to happen. And he didn't mean it that way. And all he said was, I wish we could have as many people as we could have, or whatever he said. Come on. No, we're not at that point yet. We're about 3 to 4 months from being completely out of the woods. And I think by the fall, we'll have close to full capacity at some of these stadiums, maybe less at some, depending on what your state looks like. But I mean, that's just me speaking off the cuff, off him speaking off the cuff. He certainly wasn't saying we're having an all-comers practice anytime here in the next few weeks.
And the good news is with the spring game, BTN will be there more than likely. It'll be televised. I mean, certainly better option than what we had last year with nothingness at that point. But the chance of having some sort of open practice that would be for general public, that's, I know that Urban liked to have the student appreciation deal or whatever, but it was not like we were living in a situation where we were having a ton of open practices over the last couple of regimes anyway. So, I mean, it's not like something has necessarily been taken away from us in terms of something outside of the spring game. So I wouldn't get too excited about anything there. As Steve said, the spring game itself, good opportunity, hopefully, for people to be able to have small gatherings, watch it together, some good food at home or whatever. But I don't expect to see a lot of people in seats at Ohio Stadium for a spring game. That first responder, vaccinated type of situation or whatever. It's not something of where you're having necessarily to try and keep up with the Joneses as well. We're not going to be, in terms of recruiting, we're not going to have an open recruiting period for anybody. We're in a dead period through whatever it is, May 31st or whatnot. So it's not like Alabama, who's already come out and said we're going to go full for the season. All of that's immaterial right now at this point. Let's be safe. Let's cross the finish line and have a 2021 season that resembles something at least similar to normalcy instead of jumping the gun and running the risk of something going awry.
And that question, the question was basically, Ryan, would you consider practicing in the horseshoe? And the quote is inviting all of us, which I'm going to assume meant media. And then Day saying, if we can invite anybody, we will. That's the exact quote. If we can invite anybody, we will. Now, does that mean anybody, or anybody on the Zoom call that that he was having. I think there's value to having fans there, and I don't think there's any reason why you can't have a few thousand fans in the Horseshoe watching practice to just be there, get out of the house. If it's safe to do it in the Lucas Oil, then it's safe to do it outside in Ohio Stadium. And we're not talking, open it to students. They're able to have enough students in the WAC to where the WAC isn't overrun on Student Appreciation Day. It's I don't know, 500, 1,200, something like that. Just invite students to that. Invite whomever you want. Just limit it. And there's no reason anymore. If you can sit 4 to a side, like at Lucas Oil, it was groups of 4. No, you couldn't have 6 in a row. You could have 4 in a row, and you're fine. And they're spread out. There's plenty of room at Ohio Stadium. It's just a matter of what areas do you want to clean afterwards? What areas do you want to open up for concessions, or do you open up anything for concessions? And if you don't, well, now you're going to have some unhappy consumers and customers, and the red coats and ushers. And there's all of these different logistics, but it would almost be just a reward for the fans, and also it would be good for the players. So I'd like to see it, but when the time comes to actually let people into practices, coaches get a little maybe we better not.
As Steve says, hinky. They get a little hinky about it.
Coach gets a little hinky. A lot of it's coach and some of it's guys and coach.